Hi, everybody. It is straight up 12 o'clock on the East Coast, and we just wanted to welcome you to the Clarity webinar, the HSA Today, how people are actually using HSAs and how they should be. Everybody is we always have some people that log in right at 12, right at the time, and of course we'll have a few stragglers that are coming in. So while we are giving them a minute to log in, I think we'll just do some introductions and then we can get started because we have a lot of content today. Again, welcome. My name is Becky Crutchfield. I am the Director of Partner Growth and Business Development at Clarity Benefit Solutions, and I am in Columbia, South Carolina. And it is a beautiful day here, but I'm also here with my colleague Eddie, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Thanks, Becky, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eddie Larned. I am Vice President of Broker Sales with Clarity Benefit Solutions. I am coming to you from Westchester County, New York, and we're very excited to have you all here again for year 3 of our continuing education series.
Thanks, Eddie. This is actually the first webinar that we're going to do this year, and so we're very happy to have you here. Thank you all for taking a minute to come and listen to this content. We put a lot of information in this. We do not want to waste any of your time. We're going to try to entertain you as best as we can regarding HSAs, but more than anything, we just want to make sure that you have what you need for this continuing ed credit, which is a lot more information about HSAs and how to really better position them, how to use them in your business. Here's what we're going to go through. Of course, we'll talk about the importance of HSAs, what people know about HSAs, how people are using HSAs, why it matters, and then we'll conclude there. So a couple of housekeeping ideas. If you have any questions related either to content or technology, just use the Q&A below. We've got a team that is behind the scenes that is going to answer all of your questions. And of course, if there are any questions that either Eddie or I can answer, we will answer them as they come in, or we might save a few of them till the end. So, and also keep in mind that that this is a continuing education credit, and they audit us, so they do require that you stay on for the entire time. And we have scattered some poll questions throughout the webinar, and you need to be able to answer those. Well, just at least give an answer if you would. If you have at any time cannot see the questions on your screen, or it's not allowing you to answer, first thing to check is any of the widgets. So this On24 platform allows you to move the widgets around your screen so that you can actually place things where you want them to be. If you don't want to watch the speakers and you just want to see the slides, you can do that. Also make sure that your pop-ups are not blocked. So if you're not getting your questions on the screen, make sure that you do that. And we need to make sure that you answer those. Let's see, last thing is you will receive your CE credit and certificate about 3 to 5 business days after the webinar. And after this, of course, we're going to send you a copy of the presentation. You do have to watch this live in order to get credit. And one last little housekeeping note, Virginia, people that are, those of you that are licensed in Virginia, there is a disclosure in the resources that you need to read, and they asked us to make sure to mention that to you. So without further ado, I think we're ready to dive in. So part 1, the growing importance of offering HSAs. So first, we're going to look at how people are actually using HSAs today in the key areas of spending, saving, and investing. And we'll suggest how they could and should be using them effectively going forward. Plus, we'll touch on why more effective HSA usage is good for everyone involved, including employees, employers, and brokers. So, as these statistics show, which you see on the screen here, HSAs are becoming more and more popular. More than half of employers now offer a high deductible health plan, which is the type of plan that's required to offer an HSA. There are now more than 32 million HSAs out there, an 8% year-over-year increase, and it's projected that there will actually be 38 million HSAs by 2024. So not only are there more HSAs now, they're also holding more money. Assets held in HSAs have reached nearly $100 billion, and the trend there is upward as well. So it's up 6% over last year, according to the Devenir study. So in the future, many more people may be eligible for HSAs, not just those with qualified high deductible health plans. In fact, in 2022, Congress proposed 3 pieces of legislation related to HSAs. One that would expand access for seniors, one that would expand access for children, and one that would expand access for everyone with any type of health insurance, not just qualified high deductible health plans. Now, none of these bills became law in the 2022 Congress, and we really don't know yet if they will be taken up by the 2023 Congress. But this shows that there are government advocates for making HSAs even more accessible to even more people in the future. And with that, we are going to go to our first question, your first poll question.
All right. Thanks, Becky. So first poll question is what percentage of your clients currently offer a high deductible health plan with an HSA? And I do want to point that out, with an HSA, we all know high deductible health plans can be integrated with HRAs, but we're specifically asking about an HSA. And you can answer that as A, 76 to 100%, B, 51 to 75%, C, 26 to 50%, or D, from 0 to 25%. And on this next slide, we'll give everyone a couple of seconds to go ahead and answer this to the best, your best guess. And then on the following slide, we will go ahead and talk about some of these results. And I think we have 4 or 5 different poll questions for you throughout the day today. So like Becky said, if you could participate as best you can, you'll need that in order to qualify for the CE. And it's always interesting to see what your results come out as. So let's go ahead and take a look at the early responses. So just as the data shows from one of those slides that Becky talked about earlier, the bulk of your responses are in that 51 to 75% area. I'm just going to refresh this one more time, and that holds true. So no surprise there. We see the bulk of your responses in the middle, between really 26 to 75% of your client bases are offering the high deductible health plan along with an HSA. So that's consistent with that study that you mentioned earlier, Becky.
Thanks, Eddie. So employers are going to be dealing with the repercussions of what's been termed the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation describes the elevated rate at which U.S. workers resign from their jobs starting in the spring of 2021, and strong labor demand and low unemployment, even as vaccinations ease the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, nearly 4 million Americans quit their jobs every month, and that is the highest average on record, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, these statistics show that employee turnover is a serious ongoing challenge, and for employers attracting and retaining talent, it's more vital and challenging than ever. Eddie, tell me what you're seeing. Tell me if you're actually seeing that out in the field, the Great Resignation.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it feels like it's starting to come back, and we're starting to see more folks in the workplace. I know the unemployment rate is really at close to an all-time low. But in 2021, I mean, that is a crazy statistic to me, that nearly 4 million Americans are quitting their jobs every month. And I think that's the sort of thing that keeps a CEO awake at night, you know, or upper management. And I remember talking to other folks in our industry about it, just saying how hard it is to find and retain strong people and strong, talented employees. So it's definitely interesting to see these statistics. I think it was and continues to be something that's challenging for employers, is finding people who want to work and are strong workers with a strong work ethic. So I think this is a great way to set the table for you know, how benefits plays a large part in hiring and retaining employees.
Thanks, Eddie. So as a result of the Great Resignation, as Eddie said, the talent acquisition and retention are top priorities for employers, according to HR Trends report. One key strategy to attract and retain talent is to offer more attractive benefits packages. Because, as these numbers show, benefits are important to employees. Benefits are the #2 reason people look for new jobs, and 90% of employees would take better healthcare benefits over a pay raise. Eddie, just elaborate on what's going on here with these statistics.
Yeah, well, now we know how much of a pain point it is to find and retain employees based on the stats from the prior slide. And now we can see kind of the employee population, what is a priority to them, As we know, #1 will always be your compensation, your salary, how much money, you're going to take home to support yourself and your family. But clearly here, #2 is the benefits package and as it relates to healthcare. So we're going to expand upon this. I know an HSA is only one part of the overall benefits picture, but that's what we're going to really examine today and see how this fits in and how a employer group can leverage an HSA offering to enhance this overall benefits package and work to attract and retain talented employees.
Great. Thanks, Eddie. So HSAs are shaping up to be a very important benefit for employers to offer. In an article titled "Convergence Between Retirement and Benefits is Just Beginning," Benefits Pro pointed out that employers, employees, and benefits providers are all taking a more holistic approach to managing benefits. Now, this includes an enhanced attention to adding more mental health components to healthcare benefits, tying a broader view of overall well-being that goes beyond traditional medical and surgical care. It also includes looking beyond healthcare benefits, particularly to financial planning and retirement benefits, to have a more complete, better understanding of all one's benefits, how they relate to each other, and how they can most effectively be used together.
Yeah, I really like this slide, Becky. I think it really ties together a large part of the whole value proposition behind HSAs. On the right side with that 82%, you have your retirement planning, your retirement savings and planning benefits. So, your 401ks, your 403bs, things like that, IRAs, whatever it might be. On the left side, your health-related benefits, whether that's your overall underlying medical plan, but all the other, ancillary products and tax advantage vehicles that come along to build that entire benefits package. The HSA really bridges that gap and touches both of these significantly. You could have your folks who, just want to take advantage, or their primary goal is to take advantage of the immediate tax savings of an HSA. And then you have other folks who look at it completely differently and see this as a long-term retirement and savings vehicle, along with taking advantage of the tax opportunities and the investment options. So those are the things we're going to touch on as we go through today's presentation. But I do like this slide as it really ties together the financial well-being along with your employee benefits and your health insurance.
So HSAs are growing in popularity, and we expect that the trend will continue. But let's take a step back. So in the world of employee benefits, HSAs are really still relatively new, and their features may be unfamiliar to many, especially those not in the field. So what exactly is an HSA? According to healthcare.gov, here's the definition. A health savings account is the type of savings account that lets you set aside money on a pre-tax basis to pay for qualified medical expenses. It must be used in conjunction with a high deductible health plan with HSA eligibility. And account holders can use their HSAs to pay for out-of-pocket expenses like co-pays, co-insurance, deductibles, doctor visits, hospital charges, prescription drugs, dental and orthodontic services, and vision care, glasses, and contacts. Basically, it's a way employers try to help offset some of the pain of the higher deductibles that are part and parcel of high deductible health plans, just by providing these tax-free savings on employees' out-of-pocket spending. So that's the big picture, the whole theory about HSAs. But theory and practice, of course, two different things. So that brings us to part two. What do people actually know about their HSAs? And that brings us to a poll question. Eddie?
All right, second poll question. What is your confidence? How confident are you in your knowledge of HSAs? And you can answer this in three ways: highly, supremely, awesomely confident, hopefully somewhat a little bit confident, and hardly sure about anything confident. And in a couple of minutes after we get to answer this, we'll go ahead and ask you the same question about how your clients feel or how you think your clients feel as far as what their confidence level is with HSAs. So on this next slide, you can go ahead and answer in any of these three options here. We'll give everyone 10 or 15 seconds to answer this second poll question, and then we'll go ahead and talk about some of the results.
These are great. Highly, supremely, awesomely confident. I love it.
Hopefully that's many of us, but you know. All right. So as I kind of expected, I think the bulk of us fall kind of in the middle here, but also very impressed. And hey, we know our broker partners are knowledgeable in a vast area of expertise, and a lot of you feel very, very or highly, supremely, awesomely confident in your HSA knowledge. So I'll just refresh this one last time. And again, seeing the middle lead the way, but great to hear that a lot of you, almost 40%, feel really confident with your HSA skills. Great to hear.
Yeah, that's perfect. And actually, right before you go into this, don't worry. We've got this whole presentation. It's going to be as basic as you need it, but it's also going to fill in a lot of those little tedious holes. So.
All right, same question, but this is to your client's knowledge of HSAs. So I know you might have a general pulse on this, maybe not exact, but do your best to give an estimate. My guess is our client base is not as knowledgeable as we are as insurance professionals. So, but curious to see what you give us here as far as results. So I've changed the slide over. Now you can go ahead and answer on behalf of what you think your clients might, where they might fall into this range. Oh, I may have changed too quickly. All right, as expected, we have kind of the opposite of what the prior answer was, and I'm not overly surprised to hear this. You know, we all know an HR person has a lot on their plate. They handle a lot of different responsibilities, but not overly surprised to see that there's some room for improvement. Let's say that when it comes to our clients' education on health savings accounts. Thank you for your participation with these poll questions so far.
Okay, so when it comes to the general population of HSA users, they are not at all confident. More than 90% want to learn more. Just like we saw in the poll, nearly a quarter admit that they know little or nothing. Most traveling, 1 out of 3 of them have not even opened the HSA they are eligible for. With that in mind, let's just take a pop quiz, focusing on some of the areas that cause people the most confusion about HSAs. So just write this, you can write it down on a little sheet of paper. You're welcome to put it in the comments or just answer in your head. So true or false? HSA balances roll over from year to year. 2, HSAs are portable. Number 3, HSAs have annual contribution limits. And finally, 4, anyone is eligible for an HSA. Let's take a look at the answers. So how'd you do? I'm confident that you all got these right, but again, these are the primary areas that cause confusion about typical HSA users. So we just want you to be aware of them when talking about HSAs with your clients. So number 1, HSA balances will roll over. This is true. It's a key difference between HSAs and FSAs. There's no use it or lose it penalty at all. So number 2, HSAs are portable. This is also true. The account is owned by the employee, not the employer. So it can be moved from job to job. Number 3, HSAs have annual contribution limits. This is also true. The IRS sets yearly contribution limits for single and family account holders. And number 4, anyone is eligible. Now this one is false. As we've mentioned, you have to be enrolled in a qualified high deductible health plan to contribute to an HSA. All right, so the crux of what makes HSAs stand out from other employee benefits, whether they're focused on healthcare or finances, is the triple tax advantages. You're going to hear us say this over and over and over. So this is what makes an HSA unique. The money you put into them can go in without any taxes being taken out. The money that builds up in them from interest or investment from interest or investment gains accrues without taxes being taken out as well. And the money that you take out to pay for qualified expenses can come out without taxes being being taken out. No other benefit has this triple tax advantage. And we're going to look at those individually. So three key ways to use an HSA are paying for qualified medical expenses, of course, tax-free, building up savings for future medical expenses, tax-free, and investing for future medical expenses, like in retirement, tax-free. And as promised, we're going to take a look at how your clients' employees are utilizing each of these activities today and how they might better utilize them tomorrow. But first, a question that we hear from many brokers, employers, and employees: how do HSAs align with other employee benefits that I may be more familiar with? So, Eddie, talk a little bit about connecting the HSAs with these other plans, because I think this is a great way to work your benefit plans.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can go through each of these one by one, but let's start with FSAs. So generally, an employer is choosing whether they want to offer an HSA or an FSA as the vehicle that they want to make available to let their employees gain a tax advantage way to pay for out-of-pocket expenses. But, you know, an FSA can be offered with any type of group medical plan, or you just have to be eligible for the group plans. Or as we know with an HSA, you do have to be enrolled in an HSA qualified plan. So when it comes to offering both of these benefits, certain IRS rules do apply. So for example, it's what's called a limited purpose FSA is what you are eligible for when you are also contributing actively to an HSA. And really what that means is a limited purpose FSA is just limited to non-medical expenses. So things like dental and vision and orthodontia, things of that nature, would be filtered through your limited purpose FSA, while any qualified medical expenses or prescription expenses or over-the-counter would be put through your health savings account. Again, that's an IRS rule that just says if you're actively contributing to an HSA, you can't also have an active FSA. It would have to be a limited purpose FSA. So really, why would someone have both? Well, I can think of two examples. Number one, if I am relatively healthy from a medical perspective, but I know I have predictable dental and vision expenses in the upcoming year, I can put aside and save and invest my HSA money, not touch it, and use my limited purpose FSA money to cover those dental and vision expenses. So that gives me the long-term investment and tax savings advantages of my HSA while using limited purpose FSA funds for this upcoming year for those dental and vision expenses. Another example is we know dental and orthodontia can be really, really expensive, especially if you have kids, multiple kids that are getting orthodontia at the same time. And the HSA maximums might not cover all of that out-of-pocket exposure for those types of services in a given year. So you could really maximize even beyond the HSA maximums by essentially stacking HSA and limited purpose FSA, and as a family putting away over $10,000 between the two accounts away on a tax advantage basis and covering things like that orthodontia or that dental work. So those are the two scenarios that I look at as far as why it would make sense to couple these two benefits together. HRA, we call this HRA HSA stacking. Basically, the HSA qualified in 2023, a high deductible health plan must have a minimum annual deductible of $1,500 as an employee-only coverage, or $3,000 for two-person or family. That's the minimum, but a lot of high deductible health plans have much higher deductibles. And once an employee reaches or satisfies those amounts, then the employer can kick in an HRA for whatever amount they choose to help cover the remainder of the high deductible health plan deductible, or at least a portion of it. And as a reminder, this summer we will be having another webinar specifically on HRAs. But what this can do is basically you can't contribute to that HSA and also have other funding from $1. And when I say other funding, that's a reimbursement from a carrier or something through an HRA. So basically, if you have a $5,000 or $10,000 deductible, you can, as an employer, put an HRA in to cover the back portion of that deductible, whether it's the last $500, last $2,000, whatever amount you feel comfortable with from a financial standpoint as an employer, and basically cap that exposure or make that deductible or that out-of-pocket responsibility a little bit smaller for the employee while still maintaining their HSA eligibility, so they can put away money, but they know they have a smaller deductible than the full $5,000 or $10,000 in this example, because the HRA is going to cover the back portion.
I love this HRA HSA stacking. I have to say, Eddie, it's so generous on behalf of the employer. It just makes a whole lot of sense when you've got an employer that really wants to take care of their employees.
Yeah, it really is, Becky. And the thing is, a lot of employees probably won't even touch that HRA money if it's on the backside of the deductible. Your low and medium utilizers aren't going to touch that. So it is a nice thing for an employer to do for those other individuals. Keeps more money in your HSA, gives you some long-term financial well-being, if you will, and reduces your deductible exposure in case you have one of those tough years where, you have a lot of claims. And then COBRA is the last one we'll touch on here. When an employee is on COBRA, they certainly can still continue to utilize their HSA funds, including for COBRA premiums. But as far as adding new money to the HSA, you would have to continue to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. So if you were on the high deductible health plan, you got terminated, you continue that plan on COBRA, you can continue to make contributions to your HSA, even though they will be after tax initially by just transferring money from your own personal checking or savings account into your HSA. Unlike doing a little different from contributing through payroll pre-tax. But even when you do those after-tax transfers or contributions, you still get an above-the-line deduction on your tax return. So it's still highly beneficial to you. You don't save on the FICA or the payroll tax, but you're still exempt from paying federal tax and in most cases state tax as well. So it can definitely continue to be advantageous while you're on COBRA.
Thanks, Eddie. So that takes us to part 3. How are people actually using their HSAs? There are basically 3 activities involved with using an HSA. Like we mentioned before, saving, spending, and investing. So we're going to take a look at recent statistics just to see what HSA users are actually doing in each of these areas in the real world. Oh, first another poll question.
All right. Which activity do you expect to be the most prevalent among HSA holders? Spending, saving, or investing? And please note that to answer your question, instead of putting it in the chat, which you certainly are welcome to do, if you want to appear in the survey results following the question, please just check the box here on your screen. You might have to move a few widgets around, but you can go ahead and pick one of these answers and hit submit. So again, which activity do you think is most prevalent among HSA holders? Spending, saving, or investing? Let's check out the results. And smart group, spending is number 1 at 57% here, and saving and investing is last, which is really interesting. I think you're right on the number with these results.
Perfect. So we're going to start with spending. Yes, they are using their HSAs for spending. And let's look at some statistics and trends with this. All right, so in 2021, more than $30 billion was withdrawn from HSAs, and that's up 2% from the previous year. According to Benefits Pro, 86% of HSA funds are being used to pay medical expenses. Out of an estimated $491 billion spent on out-of-pocket healthcare expenses in 2021, $95 billion were paid for with pre-tax dollars. And that's with employee benefit accounts like HSAs and FSAs. Eddie, we were talking yesterday about these numbers. What is this? What is this saying to us?
Yeah, I mean, 95 billion being spent with pre-tax dollars initially sounds like a nice number to me. Like that's impressive. But then when you look at it compared to the total out-of-pocket healthcare expenses that were paid, close to 500 billion, that tells me that there's a ton of money being left on the table by consumers. That is less than 20% is being used with pre-tax. That to me tells me almost $400 billion was being taxed on and paid to the government instead of being kept in our own pocket. So to me, that's like nice that almost 100 billion was used in pre-tax money. But to me, that shows a huge opportunity. And it's our job, I think, to educate our clients and the employees, the consumers, and let everyone know that 80% of the money that the country's spending on healthcare expenses is being taxed. And look, these benefits have maximums on them. HSAs, FSAs, they have maximums. So, you might have your educated consumers that wish they could contribute double what they are. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who have predictable out-of-pocket costs year after year that are not taking full advantage of these benefits and keeping, money in their own pocket.
Yeah, that's a lot of money left on the table. So what types of purchases are these HSA users spending on? So doctor visits and prescriptions, that's 71 and 62%. Both of them up, 7, 9%. Other popular ways to spend HSA dollars: dental visits, vision expenses, hospital bills, and over-the-counter medicines, which we're going to talk about. That's up 3%. It's probably going to go up a little more, and we're going to talk about that a little bit further. One relatively recent development having an impact in HSA spending is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Survey Act passed in 2020, popularly known as the CARES Act. So the CARES Act expanded the advantages of HSAs and FSAs by removing the prescription requirement for several over-the-counter drugs and medicines, and by adding feminine hygiene products to the list of eligible expenses for reimbursement. HSA eligible expenses now include cold and allergy products, pain relievers, medicated acne treatments, sunscreen of SPF 15 or higher, tampons, prenatal vitamins, and more. Eddie, what kind of impact is this going to have? I mean, once the numbers come out on we talked about all of the people going to the number one expense they had was doctor visits, right? So you got to go to the doctor to get a prescription. What if now we can use over-the-counter medicine for HSAs?
Yeah, I think this is a huge win for both HSAs and FSAs, especially FSAs where you have the use it or lose it and you need to spend down your balance at the end of the year. But this is a big win. I mean, a lot of these expenses used to be, back before I think ACA, used to be eligible as part of over-the-counter under IRS 213D. And that list changes slightly from year to year. Over time, the IRS makes adjustments to it. But I remember telling people, yeah, I mean, Advil and Aleve is only eligible if you have a doctor's prescription for it, which sounds kind of silly, but that was what the rule was up until this CARES Act. So I think this is a big win. These are, day-to-day expenses that we know people are spending money on anyways, are very important to people and families. So I think this was the right thing for the IRS to, or the government to make this adjustment and open up and make the over-the-counter items list quite a bit longer. And like I said, they're always making adjustments to this. So lots of great resources online to, find updated lists.
So the tax advantage savings that HSAs provide on qualified purchases is sorely needed. Here are a couple of statistics that just show how much healthcare costs are rising for Americans. In the 10 years from 2006 to 2016, out-of-pocket healthcare spending has risen by 53%. And healthcare plan premiums have gone up twice as much as workers' earnings from 2008 to 2018. Eddie, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah. Yeah. First off, that second statistic's just scary, that the premiums are increasing that much higher than, average workers' earnings. But the top statistic shows me kind of what we talked about a few minutes ago, and that people are spending more and more money out of pocket. Deductibles are going up, maximum out of pockets go up every year. So people have a need. The more money you spend out of pocket, the more you can have bang for your buck, and more tax money you can keep in your own pocket by filtering it through a pre-tax benefit. So I think we talked about that on the prior slides, with only 20% of the overall spending being done through a pre-tax vehicle. These statistics show me there's definitely a need for it, and there's an opportunity here.
So HSAs are designed to help offset those rising medical costs. That's really the whole point here. As we've discussed, they're attached to high deductible health plans. Because consumers pay a larger deductible with them, high deductible health plans encourage consumers to explore competitively priced options for their health care. And because HSAs let consumers pay with pre-tax dollars, they're effectively saving up to 30% or more on eligible expenses on individual, federal, and state tax brackets. And when it comes to tax-advantaged employee benefits related to healthcare spending, many people are more familiar with flexible spending accounts, or FSAs, than HSAs. Eddie, would you walk through this chart? Just tell us the differences really quickly so that we can have it in our heads.
Yeah, I think the number one here, eligibility, is probably a large reason why people are more familiar with FSAs than HSAs, because with the HSA, as we talked about, you must be enrolled in an HSA qualified high deductible health plan. Not everyone has the risk tolerance for that. For someone who's a high utilizer or has a condition, probably doesn't make sense to elect that plan, even though the premiums are lower if you're opening yourself up to more exposure. Whereas the FSA, you don't even necessarily have to be enrolled in that group plan offered by your employer. You just have to be eligible for it, and you can opt into the FSA. So everyone who's benefits eligible is eligible for an FSA. Who owns the account? With the HSA, it's the employee. We talked about it's portable. With the FSA, technically it's an employer-owned account that the employee can opt into. That's why you have those use it or lose it rules, although it is COBRA eligible. Both are tax-free. The funds roll over for an HSA indefinitely. Again, that money belongs to the employee, and we'll see in the next line it is portable. Funds carry over on an FSA. Well, it's up to the employer, and that maximum is only $610, so it's not a true rollover. And then portable, we talked about that. HSA, yes. FSA, no. And the qualified expenses are the same. All unreimbursed medical expenses under 213D.
So chances are your clients' employees who have HSAs are using them on qualified medical expenses. But here are a few ways that they may be able to make their HSA dollars go even further. When first getting started, employees may not have a lot of money in their HSAs. However, they can save receipts from qualified expenses they make out of pocket and reimburse themselves from their HSA later when the accounts are more fully funded. Sometimes discount programs like GoodRx offer better deals on prescription drugs that are available through health insurance. And so in certain cases, it may actually make more sense to pay for prescriptions with HSA funds out of pocket rather than through their health insurance program. And people need to realize and remember that many everyday purchases like aspirin or sunscreen or tampons are now eligible to be paid for with HSA funds. And Eddie's going to talk a little bit more about other ways that we can spend more wisely.
Yeah, I mean, these will sound familiar to all of you. And I mean, these are tidbits I've picked up on from being in open enrollment meetings with our insurance broker partners and consultant partners. But when it's in an HSA and it's your own money, it becomes that much more important to do things like asking for a generic equivalent for a prescription instead of a brand name drug, going to the urgent care center instead of, the emergency room. Participating in wellness programs, working out, being healthy, things like that. I think all of these are tips and tricks that apply regardless of your status with an HSA or a high deductible health plan. They're good practices to have anyways. But again, when we're talking about our own money in our HSA and some of the things you can do with an HSA, it just becomes that much more important. So all things that I think, our broker partners do a great job of educating their clients and employees on a regular basis. Again, HSA or no.
Yeah, and you need to make sure that you find a provider that has HSA features. So here are the HSA features to look for to facilitate spending. First of all, make sure that they have things like a smart debit card, a mobile app, things that make spending, tracking, claims, and reimbursement processes easy and automated. You remember, you want to make sure that they adopt the whole plan. Many providers now offer advanced funding options as well. So in other words, if they don't have the funds in their HSA, the employer can actually provide like a loan type thing where they are going to pay it back as the funds become available. So let's look a little bit further. That's an advanced funding option. Let's look a little bit more at HSA saving. Are they saving? Well, kinda. The official answer. About $42 billion was put into HSAs in 2021, and about $31 billion was taken out. So it seems that people are, to some extent, saving. The average yearly contribution to an HSA is $1,646. So, Eddie, what's the maximum contribution allowed this year?
Yeah, so for an individual, it's almost double that average right there. It's actually at $3,850, and for a family, it's $7,750 plus an extra $1,000 if you're over age 55. So again, money being left on the table. And look, we understand not everyone is in a financial position to be able to max out an HSA every year. There's no doubt about it. We certainly understand that. But, I do think there is more opportunity here to put money away and save it and utilize it when you're going to need it.
Why is it important for people to save more for medical expenses? Well, because a lack of such savings is negatively impacting Americans. 4 out of 10 U.S. adults have delayed or gone without medical care in the last year due to its cost, and 6 out of 10 worry about being able to afford an unexpected medical bill. The S in HSA stands for savings, not spending. These accounts were created to encourage saving. How do they do this? They earn interest tax-free. There are no minimum distributions. They roll over. They're portable. We're going to drive these things into your heads here. And they are owned by the employee, not the employer. So it's their own money that they're saving. Any comments about that one, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention that high yield savings accounts are becoming more and more prevalent with HSA administrators in the United States. Up until last year, there were really only 2 administrators that had that as an option. So even for the most risk averse people, that is a great solution. Especially, it's nice to have a savings account. It's important, but we also know, and this will kind of segue into investing, we also know that with inflation where it is right now, if your money is just sitting in a savings account earning 0.001 interest or whatever it might be earning, that you're actually losing money. So we do want people to put away money so that when they have that unexpected medical event, that they have money to pay for it. Of course, not everyone wants to have money tied up in investing, but I do think high yield savings accounts are going to be kind of the future. And is a competitive advantage for HSA administrators out there.
Yep, and this chart highlights that. Some of the key advantages to HSAs over traditional bank savings accounts. Again, you do have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. They must be qualified medical expenses, but you can see, we've gone over this a few times. You can see that there are some benefits to the HSA. Because interest is earned tax-free and often at higher rates, and there are no minimum distributions, HSA are very attractive vehicles to build up savings for future healthcare expenses. So it makes sense, if at all possible, to contribute the maximum amount every year to an HSA. As a reminder, in 2023, the IRS set contribution limits at $3,850 for self-only coverage and $7,750 for family coverage. But as we noted earlier, the average yearly contribution to an HSA is just $1,646. Make sure your HSA partner you recommend to your clients offers HSAs with features that facilitate savings, such as high yield interest options, like Eddie was talking about. Perhaps they're backed by a group annuity from a highly rated insurance provider, as well as more traditional savings options backed by an FDIC insured institution. And make sure that they give end users access to a single portal that allows them to track savings, spending, and investing in real time. So that's a snapshot of HSA saving. And like Eddie mentioned, we're going to move into HSA investing. This is the best part. Are people using their HSAs for investing? Not really. Let's take a look at some of the statistics and trends here. So here's a statistic that really stands out. Only 7% of HSAs have a portion of their dollars invested. Investing is the most underutilized activity of HSAs. And I think our poll showed that as well, because isn't that right, Eddie? That's what we saw?
Yeah, our attendees were right on top of that. I think they answered about 2%. But to me personally, I think the investing and the triple tax advantage of an HSA, the fusion of those two factors is what makes this such an attractive benefit. And I see huge opportunity here. I've talked to some of our clients and some of their employees. One woman comes to mind who's been in an HSA for, I think, 7 or 8 years. She maxes it out every year. She has all of her money invested. She has over $70,000 in her HSA, which is building a nice nest egg. We'll talk about what you can use this money for after you turn 65. But really, I think there's tremendous opportunity here. Even if you're investing in something more conservative, at least you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here when it comes to the investments.
However, those that are investing have the most robust HSA accounts. Yep, that's what Eddie was saying. The average total balance for HSA investment accounts is over $19,000. That's more than 7 times more than accounts without investments. At the end of 2021, there were $34.4 billion in HSA investments. This represents a 45% increase. So though investments are underutilized, they do represent the fastest growing activity of HSA accounts. There is a pressing need, however, for people to invest today with an eye to building funds for retirement. According to EBRI, a couple retiring, both of them 65, will need to have $350,000 set aside for healthcare costs. And as we've noted, HSAs are unique. They're offering numerous tax advantages, including no taxes on investment earnings and no taxes on withdrawals for eligible medical expenses. In fact, after age 65, HSA holders can withdraw funds for any purpose without being penalized. Here's an overview of how HSAs compare to a 401k. Since we're talking about investing, let's take a look at how they compare. Because HSA contributions offer greater tax savings than 401k contributions, they give account holders the potential to build up savings faster. For many, therefore, it may even make sense to fully fund their HSAs before devoting funds to their IRAs, particularly if there is a low employer 401k match. Contribution limits for HSAs are significantly lower than 401ks, however, so HSAs should serve as a complement to, not a replacement for, other retirement planning investing. So how may HSA users invest more wisely? Because of an HSA's unique tax advantages, it makes sense to make, if at all possible, the maximum yearly contribution. It may also be a viable strategy if one is in the right financial position to minimize any spending of HSA dollars and to use the account as purely as possible for retirement savings. Many of us are not in a financial position to not touch our HSAs for spending, of course. Another strategy might be to accrue enough cash to cover a high deductible health plan's deductible and then invest any remainder.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one, Becky, and I agree with what they're suggesting here is that if you find yourself in a position where you can afford to do this, it almost behooves you to just pay for your medical expenses, your dental, your vision, your HSA eligible expenses out of your own pocket and to save and invest the HSA money and earn that interest on it for the long run. Of course, not everyone's in that position, but in an ideal scenario, I think financially it can make sense to do that. And in addition, when you have an HSA, you really have two buckets of money. You have a liquid account and then you have an investment account. And you can easily move money back and forth between them. It takes just a couple of days for the transfer to clear. But to the point that you just mentioned there, I think it could be wise to have 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000, whatever you're comfortable with in that liquid account, and then everything beyond that sitting in the investment account. And with a lot of HSA administrators, you can actually set a limit. Like, I want to have $2,000 in my liquid account at all times. Whenever my balance gets to $2,250, for example, move that $250 automatically into my investment account. And I've already picked my portfolio. It will just distribute funds into that portfolio that I've already selected. So some of these platforms are extremely robust with what their investment capabilities are. So depending on how savvy of an investor, or even for a more novice investor, I think you can really maximize the benefit here.
So more features to look for. Many HSA providers offer only rudimentary limited investment programs, but when considering an HSA partner to recommend to your clients, make sure they offer more sophisticated features, such as a choice of investment models to suit different types of investors, as well as the ability to engage in fractional trading and participate in exchange traded funds. And make sure that they have a platform and tools like apps that make trading intuitive and easy, even for the novice. Eddie, can you talk about some of these features for us?
Yeah, I think the fractional trading is really cool. That's a feature that our HSA at Clarity utilizes for our employees ourselves. And to me, what that means, if you're not aware, is let's say if you only have $200 to invest, but you want to own a piece of Amazon or Tesla or Berkshire Hathaway that are trading at much higher numbers, you can buy just a fraction of a share with that $200, and now I own a piece of an Amazon share. So that allows people to get engaged with their investing at a much earlier stage and have the flexibility to buy a piece of any company regardless of how much money you have able to invest. Exchange ETFs, I'm a big fan of ETFs. They have a lower expense ratio than mutual funds, so that keeps more money in the investor's pocket. And then the easy intuitive trading, we have a couple investment management options that we're seeing out there in the market. Options for your most experienced investor who really wants to pick and choose their entire portfolio, all the way to the other end of the spectrum for a more novice investor who kind of needs the support of a advisor or even some AI to help choose and then reshuffle their investment portfolio. So lots of great solutions out there, again, for all different types of investors.
So why aren't people investing more? Particularly when it comes to saving for healthcare costs and retirement. For some, it's because they don't currently have the financial resources available to set aside funds for future healthcare. For instance, 56% of Americans can't currently cover a $1,000 emergency expense with savings. That being said, many people simply are not fully aware of the unique built-in tax advantages HSAs offer for investing for future healthcare needs. 35% of employees admit that they don't fully understand their benefits. So I'm thinking education, a big one.
Yeah, I agree, Becky. And, education is an important one. We see employers bring in a 401k expert every year to talk about investing. but we don't always get that same exposure with HSAs. And not that anyone who's an HSA expert is going to come in and talk to you about, picking and choosing your investments, but at least having an understanding of what your options are and what these platforms can accommodate, like I said, for all different types of investors. But on the financial constraints on the left side of your screen, that's important to understand that not everyone is in a position to be able to invest that aggressively and put that much money away. However, if you do have that $1,000 bill for a hospital, all these hospitals and doctors do, for the most part, allow payment plans, spreading out, your $1,000 over 10 months or 10 pay periods. And if you're able to recognize that as an opportunity, put that through your HSA, immediately reimburse yourself or reimburse yourself in arrears after you've paid that, you're still going to end up saving $300 in this example. So again, not everyone's going to be able to put away the money for investing, but I do think there are ways that if we provide enough education, people will still be able to take advantage of the tax savings and save themselves money.
So finally, that's the basic picture of how people are using their HSAs to spend, save, and invest, and how they might use them more efficiently in years ahead. But before we can conclude, let's just quickly review why people getting the most out of their HSA matters to both employees, employers, and to their brokers. With a poll question. We got 2 poll questions left, so if you weren't able to answer the previous ones, make sure you get these 2 in.
All right, in your experience, what is most attractive about HSAs? And we went over all of these features today, but we'll give you the options of tax advantages, ease of use, meaning contributions, debit cards, mobile app, resources, the investment management options, and the account portability. We'll just give everyone a few seconds to answer that. We only have 5 minutes left, so we'll move this along.
That's
all right, looks.
They got the lots. Triple tax advantages. I love it. Yep.
Great. Yep. Tax advantage. No surprise there.
So as we've stressed, HSAs offer tax advantages no other type of account offers. Users don't pay taxes when they put it in or when they take it out. And so, as such, they effectively give users a 30% or more discount on qualified current healthcare expenses and a great opportunity to save for their healthcare in the future. Plus, high deductible health plans and HSAs encourage people to be more active in managing their healthcare, hopefully leading to better health and well-being. Also, as we suggested earlier, quality benefits like HSAs help employers attract talent and decrease turnover, as well as encourage employee well-being, productivity, and satisfaction. Additionally, contributions to HSAs are exempt from FICA taxes. And as HSAs work in conjunction with high deductible health plans, employers realize the savings on premiums and other healthcare costs that these plans deliver. As brokers are well aware, high deductible health plans are solutions more and more employers are implementing. When you help an employer find the best high deductible health plan solution, having a good HSA partner in place can be crucial to employees' overall satisfaction with the plan. And employee satisfaction, in addition to cost savings, can be a vital factor in selecting and renewing the HDHP plan you recommend. And one last poll question.
All right, last poll question, and I think we have a couple questions in our Q&A, so hopefully we have a few minutes to address those. The last question is, what is the biggest challenge or concern that your clients have with offering an HSA? And you can answer that as lack of employee education / understanding of the benefit, financial exposure of being enrolled in a high deductible health plan, service experience and technology from an HSA administrator, and the low participation or contributions from employees, low utilization, I guess you could say. All right, lack of employee education and understanding of the benefit. And that kind of fits into a lot of these statistics that we talked about during today's presentation. So not really surprising there. That's the overwhelming response. And I think the second, financial exposure definitely makes sense. Low participation, contributions from employees. I think that falls in line with employee education and understanding of the benefit as well.
Thanks, Eddie. So it's clear much work needs to be done to increase the awareness of how HSAs may be best used. For instance, fewer than 30% of employers position HSAs as a retirement saving vehicle. Brokers clearly have a key role in helping raise awareness, as do the HSA partners they recommend. Look for one who offers tools and resources such as customizable collateral, presentations, emails, even webinars that educate employers and employees about the many advantages of HSAs. And with that, we can go to our questions. Remember that we are going to be sending this slide deck out to you so that you can pass it along or review it, and you'll be receiving a copy of the webinar. Eddie, any other questions that we need to address?
We have some good questions in here. Let's see. Do you have any recommendations on platforms that allow HSA investing? Yes, we do. The logo is right in the bottom left-hand corner here of the screen. That would be a recommendation for a strong investment platform. Some other ones, let's see. Is it common for most TPA vendors to offer a fractional trading? No, very few do. Using HSA money.
Make sure that we answer all of these individually. We will reach out if your question was not answered.
Yes, and if you have to hop off, you did still qualify for the CE. We have finished it, so no problem if you have a hard stop at 1 o'clock Eastern, but we'll do our best to go through these, and like we said, we will definitely follow up with you as well. What is the max for dental on an HSA? There is no max, so you could use all of your HSA money on dental or all of your HSA money on vision. Or all of it on medical. As long as you have a balance in your HSA, there are no caps as far as a specific type of claim you can use the funds for. Can HSA funds be used to pay for Medicare premiums and Medicare supplement coverage premiums? Yes. First dollar has to come from the HSA. Second dollar can come from the employer-funded HRA. Yes, that is correct. As long as that HRA does not kick in and begin paying expenses until that minimum HSA deductible has been satisfied of $1,500 for single or $3,000 for family. Yes, accounts roll over every year. This is a bank account. It belongs to the account holder. They can even assign a beneficiary to the account. So if they pass away, the money is kept by that beneficiary. If a participant goes from family coverage to individual coverage or vice versa mid-year, how do they determine their annual maximum contribution limits? Going from family to individual, it's usually prorated at an amount in between the two. And for the opposite, you do get bumped up to that family maximum. You can elect the max. Is there a termination of the CARES Act in 2023 that would change this over-the-counter meds? No, this is not linked up with the end of the federal emergency that's scheduled to end in early May. So unless there's another act put in place that constricts these eligible expenses, we don't really foresee those going back. Von Hurst, great point. Most of those over-the-counter items used to be covered until about 2015 or so. That is correct. So I think I was able to answer most of these, but I don't want to hold everyone up. So we can go ahead and respond to these individually if I missed any.
Thank you guys so much. Also, if you wouldn't mind taking the survey at the end just to let us know how we did, we appreciate you being here on our first event, and we'll see you again later in the summer.
Thank you.